welcome to a Kill Team tier list video. This is our first impressions tier list for the newest season after the bespoke kill teams. And we have Orion, one of the top players in the United States, here to help guide us along the way. Now, we are TOs and judges, and we've also been playing Kill Team for quite some time. If you're new to the channel, we do a lot of stuff. We do hobby, we do tournaments and all that kind of stuff. Orion has been helping make content and been in the tournament scene for a really long time. So we think we can provide some valuable insight to a tier list that's entirely too early. So I definitely can tell you we're not going to put Mandrakes in C tier, though. I don't think we will, at least. So we have a brand new format, and we have a different... We're not using tier maker or any of the other kind of things that the other content creators do. I spent 3.5 days making something of our own. So hopefully you enjoy it and it's something new. Now, that being said, all of the not all the images, some of the images are GW actual art. Some of the images for teams are done by me or Giacomo. And then there's 3 others that are done by our community. So we have one done by Garrett Rayner, who won the ITC Hobby Track. We have who he did Yaegirs. We have Aiden, who won last year's Hobby Track, and we have his Wormblade. And then we have Alexander Popov. Shout out to Alexander Popov. Always. Yeah, I guess we're just gonna dive right into it after I take a bite of my hunk of cheese.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so beautiful. Look at it.
Giacomo told me, he was like, I want it to look like a character fighting select page. So that's what I did.
I think you nailed it.
Pretty good.
So we have S tier, A tier, B tier, C tier, and D tier. Now, since this is custom, we can only fit a total of 11 teams in each row. So we're going to have to be judgmental on these teams. We can't just put everything in B tier or everything in A tier like a previous content creator has done. I think the Spanish was like 1 in S tier and like everything else was an A and B tier. So we can't do that. We can't do that, right? Let's make the evaluations right now about what makes an S tier, A tier, B tier, C tier, and D tier. I have a thought, but I want to see what you guys think.
Orion, you want to start us off?
Sure. So I can kind of... A lot of people do these differently, and this is my first time doing a tier list with anybody. To me, what a tier list, I guess, should be, if I were to, pop one out, would be tournament viability.
Okay.
And that is the capability to go, undefeated in like an 8-round event. Versus, the BS tier, right? Like, clearly, if you take this team and you are a competent player, like, you have a full-on shot. Not saying it's guaranteed, but you have a full-on shot of winning the whole thing.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah.
I like to keep skill level exactly the same players playing every single one of these teams. And that player is competent with those teams. Because then if you start like, well, this guy's good with this team, but this guy's bad with this team, you get a little muddy in the water. So then A would be, you're probably going to lose one match, maybe 2 through an 8-day event. But really, it's going to be a good showing overall. B tier, I mean, you're really looking to go like above the water. You're going
above
looking to
50%.
Yeah. C tier is your 50%, and D tier is like, well, you showed up. Fun, right? Yeah.
Okay.
That's how I would look at it.
All right. Fair enough.
I mostly feel exactly the same, except when I look at the letters going downward, I think of them as the tool set and abilities that they have that can pretty much guarantee you the win. So like some teams will have a tool set and abilities that you just really can't stop. And then there's A that just gets a little bit harder to do it each time until you're at D and you're just having a good time.
So for me, I was thinking something also a little bit different. So maybe we're going to combine all of them. So S tier was anything like 55% win rate and up. D tier is like anything below 30% win rate or 35% win rate. Cause there was like 6 teams at that rating, right? This past data slate. Most of them did get buffs, right? But And then everything else was in between. But I'm happy to go with tournament viability and not go super numbers because numbers are boring, right?
Well, yeah.
So
My thing with numbers would be, if we're gonna make a tier list based on numbers, I can just go look at the numbers. What are they watching for? They can go look at squad games data right now. We're
I
here
know,
for the
but
hot takes, the shitty opinions. Like that's what everyone wants. They want to laugh at us. They want to cheer with us. They're like, oh yeah, my favorite team is S tier.
exactly.
That's what they're here for. We know.
There we go.
I like it. See, I'm sorry about the clickbaity tier list that I'm going to put into the to the thumbnail. It's going to be, yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. I already made the thumbnail for it. So, I guess we'll just go into our bespoke factions right away. Bum, 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 bum. I was trying to do like some kind of fight music, but I have no rhythm, as Giacomo has told me. And actually, I do have rhythm. I'm just tone deaf. I can dance.
Okay.
I can't. I'm great at salsa. I'm great at the tango. I'm good at ballroom. I can crip walk.
Just not to any viable music that isn't in your head. Just
yeah, only to things that are out there.
I like that.
Yeah. So, and to play kill team, you have to have rhythm, right?
yeah,
That's why I'm
it's
bad
how
at
you roll the dice better.
Yeah. So, how do we want to tackle this? Do we want to tackle like the top of the tier lists of last time and kind of go over like that, or do we just want to go in alphabetical?
I mean, I'm thinking alphabet is easy, right?
All right, let's go alphabetical, and then we'll try to get them in the right order. I guess we'll try
As
We'll
best
see
we
how it
can.
works. Yeah.
Yeah, allegedly.
Okay, so what are we thinking about Angels of Death? They didn't really see anything crazy on the balanced data slate. So objectively, they got buffed because all of their hard counters got nerfed. Except we might see more Nemesis Claw, and we might see a couple of their other counters kind of rising up. Like Death Core of Krieg might actually pose a threat, but I don't know because I said they could have, but I was very wrong the last time I talked about Death Core of Krieg.
Well, I think a safe place to put them, and I don't think they're really going to move from them, is probably in C tier.
Angels of Death in C tier?
Yeah.
I don't think they're C tier.
What?
Really?
So you
Okay.
think they're so according to what we're saying, C tier is you're expecting to go below average at a tournament, like well below average.
Well, it's
Okay.
even realistically, right? It's like 4 and 4 at best.
I thought B tier was even, or I guess B tier is just above.
Yeah, B tier is above. C tier would
Okay.
be even. D tier is no one cares how you did.
Fair. Okay.
I would put them in B tier because I think they're one of the most honest kill teams in the game. There's a few things they do very well. They have a few tools, but they definitely have counters. They're just a good, strong team. Like if I were to look at kill team as like, all right, where do we start with power level? Like Angels of Death is really one of those teams where I look at it. I'm like, yeah, this is a great place to look at. They have very strong things here, very weak things here. They have a little bit of flexibility. They give you a little bit of everything. And I think that puts them in the category of B for me.
I would also say that I think Angels of Death are very strong early, like an early kill team. They're gonna pub stomp a lot of people just getting into the game, just because they're kind of easy to play and they're gonna function relatively well compared to some of the higher skill cap teams. But so if you're just looking to go to a store or something like that and start playing them, they might even be in A tier. But I do agree, I think they'd be in B tier. Now, Giacomo, you've been outvoted, so it doesn't matter if you think that your Angels of Death are in C tier.
Yeah, I mean,
have we swayed you? Have we swayed you?
Yeah, I was gonna say I think you're probably right. For more than not, players who are playing against Angel of Death will have a little bit of a tough time on average. So yeah, okay. So I can relinquish and go to B tier for them.
Well, you don't get a choice, my guy.
I don't. It just has to happen.
I'm gonna do my best to place it. Cool.
There you go.
All right.
Hell yeah.
Hey.
We got our first model. Now this model was painted by Giacomo.
That was.
Oh hell yeah.
Let's zoom in and get all those.
Oh, this is so cool.
It's cool, right?
Yeah. Look at that dude.
Yeah,
He's angry to be here.
he is angry to be here. All right. So we have Angels of Death. They are out there. Now we're looking at Blades of Khaine. Now, Blades of Khaine got a buff. You know, I'm pretty sure that Games Workshop, there was this like huge scandalous story that Striking Scorpions need a 3-up save and that they suck and that they're blades of lame. I don't know who would have said any of that. But
yeah, that doesn't ring any bells for me.
But then they went to LVO and they were like, hey, I'm going to crush everything that's not a Space Marine and make it to the very final table, play Warpcoven and lose like they should have. So Blades of Khaine's pretty dang good. They're smoking good if in the right player's hands. Now, Orion, you said that we're kind of giving everyone the same skill, right?
Mm-hmm.
I am relatively okay with putting them in S tier, but I think I'd put them at the very bottom of S tier.
I don't think I'd put them in S tier. Yeah, I think they'd be in an A tier for sure. But I mean, if like looking at Soli LVO, they did drop a game, right? My experience with elves are usually they will drop a game somewhere just because there's 4-up saves in a lot of places, and sometimes those just let you down.
Or if you run into power armor. Yeah.
Right. There's always some critical game when you're going into a large event where like they just don't work. No matter what the skill is. Sometimes they just fall flat. But their toolbox is deep. They have a lot of tricks if you're not aware of the team. You're gonna get caught by a lot of that stuff. It's just a lot to remember as the opponent. I think they have what it takes to definitely attempt to win an event. But I don't think it's gonna be like, well, you're taking Blades of Khaine, you know, you've got this as long as you play good. I think sometimes they will just let you down by being elves.
Yeah, they might also be like, I think that they also might be like very, very strong in a lot of ways, but like you said, they could fail. And I think there's only like maybe like 8 players in the US that could really take them and play really well. If you're going to pick up this team, I'm going to tell you right now for the beginning players, the brand new players, I think we should also talk about brand new players when we're talking about these. Blades of Khaine is a really, really fun team to play. They can do anything. In fact, they can do so much stuff that you will have paralysis while playing this team, but they are a lot of fun. So, in fact, this is the funnest team that I've ever played, and I think Ratlings are a hoot as well. But yeah, I mean, if you want to kick them out of S tier, that's fine with me. What do you think, G?
Like Orion said with the toolkit, they pretty, and like you said, they can pretty much do anything. Like there's nothing stopping with them. I think they have the most rules in the game right now, if I remember correct. So you really can mix and match and play almost any style. To me, by the way, I've determined the chart. I would say A tier. Like you can do a lot with this team, and as you get better with it, it just becomes so much better because you have a good understanding of how this team plays.
And there's definitely elf teams better than them as well.
Yeah, I think there's also the chance that no matter how good you are as a player, sometimes you take the wrong models in this team. I think sometimes the amount of choice can also be a hindrance where it's like, I don't know what the right answer is. And maybe there was one, but it wasn't the right one for this game, you know? So I think that just puts them a little bit below where the choice is sometimes a hindrance.
Right.
Yeah. This might be one of the highest skill cap teams in the entire game for sure. So I'm okay with putting them in A tier.
Yeah. I have this feeling just apprehensively early. We're going to see a lot of elves scoring some good grades.
I would agree. I think elves are
about there as well. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the elves this is the time of the elves. Time of the elves is now. The time of the dwarves is coming. Right?
Has not come yet.
Has never been here.
They're on their stubby legs. They'll get there eventually.
They need to get sticks.
At least they have longer moves now. Okay. I guess next up is Blooded. We saw Blooded do really, really well at LVO, but we haven't seen them consistently do well outside of the hands of few players. The team is Chaos, so that's automatically down one step, right? Because they're bad. They're evil, not bad in like a bad way. They're just evil guys, right?
I was like, what is that?
But yeah, I think that they're kind of just the better guardsmen at this time.
Mhm.
You know, they kind of do everything that that Death Corps want to do. I would say that they don't shoot better anymore, but they used to.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
currently they shoot a little worse, but obviously they melee extraordinarily better.
Incredibly better. Like, um,
They also have access to an Ogren, which is amazing.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I've seen like at any other event when there's 158 players, Brandon Bean could and would have won LVO since he took, I think he took 8th place, right? With Blooded. And like that's still a huge showing for these guys.
Mm-hmm.
But we only have 11 slots per category. Where do you guys see that? I see them in A or top of B.
B. Yeah, I see them in B. Like, once you get the melee going off, you start taking out higher threats.
Yes,
I mean, you have to work for it, but
I think before the data slate, they were in a solid B. I think one of the biggest things holding them back was a lot of elite teams negating that piercing ability. With this team being able to like auto retain crits and stuff like that with the Melta, it becomes very devastating now that elites can no longer
I see what you did
negate
there.
those things.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I would put them at A. I don't think they're at the top of A for sure, but I think they would be an A.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll put everything into where they're supposed to be, and then we'll try to
Shuffle them around.
Shuffle it from there.
As
I mean, it's very minute in my opinion. If they're in that tier, they're in that tier.
Yeah. I'm fine with them in A too.
So, Brood Brothers, interestingly enough, they won a pretty large event in Florida just to get to Worlds, and they got to Worlds. They are a very good team. The Patriarch is nigh unstoppable against some teams. I think Brood Brothers are very, very strong and solid team.
They got the toolkit behind them. I think the way I look at it, I'm seeing them kind of similar to Blooded. I would put them in low A or high B, somewhere right there.
Yeah, I haven't seen enough of the team yet to really justify the difference between A and B.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely has a good toolbox. I don't know how much different because it's about the same as it was last edition. Nothing has really changed with the team. But last edition, they were absolutely better at holding the 6 objectives versus the 3. And that's the one thing where I'm kind of like, well, I don't know. I haven't seen them play too much competitively to say. I would defer to you gentlemen in A or B. I think either one would be fine.
It's all you, Dakotah.
Okay, I think they're in A tier, to be honest.
There we go.
But
we're putting them in
we might put them in C tier. We'll have to see, right?
Right, because they could be pushed out.
Okay, so Chaos Cults is up next. I am really hyped on Chaos Cults.
Mm-hmm.
I think I saw Glass Half Dead put him in D tier, and I'm sorry, Glass, you're wrong. I don't know what his tier list was on. I don't know if it was competitive or not because I haven't watched the video yet. I look forward to watching it. But I definitely don't think Chaos Cult's in D tier. Now, I could be wrong if Orion wants to be like, yo, Dakotah, you are a ding-dong. Because you are kind of the melee horde master, Orion. That's how I view you, right? Last edition, you were incredible with Gellerpox. You were able to beat Chaos Cult at their prime and at their tier. With these changes, where do you think Chaos Cults lie?
Well, it definitely brings them back into the fold. I think it's yet to be seen. Chaos Cult is great and all, but stun grenades and razor wire exist now, and that's better than any team they could face. Same with Gellerpox. So I'm cautiously optimistic that the team is going to show up. But man, on certain maps, a well-placed razor wire really just gives you the middle finger. I think I'd put them in B tier for now. Potentially bump down to C just because, man, the kill op really hurts them. Stun grenades really hurt them. You know, when you cluster up. And yeah, a perfectly placed razor wire can completely ruin a Torment's day.
I do think also that there's a lot of teams now that are just straight better at fighting them. Like they, the strategy. You have to change the way you play, into Chaos Cult. You got to focus the little guys and just kind of ignore the torments. But, you know,
Yeah, think of it as now, like if you just start focusing the little guys, you're gonna start racking up those points still for the kill op. So like if that's the good strategy, right? Well, now it's a great strategy. And you just stun the torments out of existence to the point where they're not doing much.
yeah, it's scouts with their like unlimited stun grenades.
Yeah, now I don't recall if they have a way to ignore APL modifiers this edition. So maybe that could help.
I
But
don't either. I'm not going to look it up.
I'm
sure the comments will tell us. Okay.
Yeah.
While you look it up, I'm going to put them in B tier.
Yeah, I think B tier or high C would be fine. Because the one thing they do have going for them is they do roll elf teams quite well. Yeah, if they can get some 2-for-1 trades with the Torment, like things start looking bad for elves.
Yeah, I was actually talking to Jimmy Kelly before this, and he was saying that an S through D tier ranking list is not necessarily like the best way to rank teams. It's kind of like a rock paper scissors meta right now, which I more than less agree with. But overall, there are teams that have way higher popularity, and in fact, Chaos Cult I think only had 16 tournament games last data slate, and Legionary had 869, right? So
Marines are cooler.
16 to 800. That's just an enormous percentile difference, right? So yeah, that is a thing. That is the thing. So Deathcore is next. I am the residential Deathcore guy.
He is the man.
I would have happily said that Deathcore was the worst team in the game before the data slate came out. And now I'm relatively optimistic on them. I don't think that they're like S tier. I don't think they're A tier. I don't know if you have a chance to win an event, like a big event with them, like an 8-rounder. Could you go extra positive? Man, they really suck into Void Dancers too, like hard. And Void Dancers are going to be so popular this patch. That means Howling Banshees are also going to shoot the crap out of them, and so are,
sort of. Blooded, I mean, Howling Banshees can't exactly dodge the crack grenades that are coming.
That is true. Blooded, you could beat Blooded. I think you can beat Brood Bros. You could definitely beat Chaos Cult, possibly. And Angels of Death, they could beat. So I think every team up there, other than maybe Blades of Khaine, I'm sure they could beat Blades of Khaine if the players hasn't guided with Eldred. I would say I'd put them in B tier. I think that I'm relatively hyped on the changes for them. I'm going to find out when me and Giacomo go to our doubles event on the 22nd. He's going to bring half of a Kasrkin team. I'm going to bring half of a Deathcore team. It's going to be amazing.
Should be fun.
I think this team has added itself some consistency and brought itself up to be as well. Simply because I think a lot of people are underestimating just how good Ceaseless Accurate 1 is. Like that's theoretically having you hitting on like, a Astartes level consistency.
Right.
And it's just like, I think this team can punch well above its weight in certain games. Not every game. Sometimes, you're still at 4s. And it's like, well, I still want to go higher. Yeah. But you get Accurate 1. It's always going to be one hit. With Ceaseless, you're pretty much like guaranteed at least another hit.
In Melee, they have Accurate 1 as well. And if you always drop
Ceaseless as well.
Yeah. And if you drop a model, right, and you always take Accurate 1 and Saturate, which I would highly suggest for this team. I definitely think that they're really, really good. Now, on our Balanced Data Slate video, Dan, the world champion, definitely thinks that they're still the worst team in the game.
Oh, no, definitely not.
And I have to disagree. I do. I'm sorry, Dan. I love you, but that's the one hot take I can't agree with you on for the Emperor. What about you, G? What do you think?
No, I'd put him in B as well. Accurate and Ceaseless already alone just increases the number of hits. And with the changes to piercing, from elites. Now they have a more reliable way of getting melted to just one shot some of these guys. So like a 6-man team can, you make 2 trades on a good turn, elites start falling apart,
Now they could drop down to C tier, depending on what else comes out here, and like we only have space for 11 teams, so we'll have to
you can put them in B. I think they're better than Chaos Cults.
Oh yeah,
I think so.
I don't think they are, but I think they conditionally can be. Again, you can, if you do array, you get an accurate 1 relentless Melta, and that's pretty scary.
Yeah, it's pretty nutty. And then on Into the Dark, you can like really hold down a thing and get like you can get ceaseless, and you can put a little ammo cache, so you get balanced. So you can get accurate. I mean, you could get accurate, balanced, ceaseless, like guns in your back line, like just looking down hallways and stuff. And then anyone that gets too close, you can charge with accurate hand axes, doing 3-4 damage. After you've melted them, if they haven't died yet. I mean, I think that seems pretty good. I think if you play them right, they're definitely way more cagey than they used to be. I think they have legs though, unlike dwarves. All right. Though I do think the dwarf teams spank them. So that's the rock, paper, scissors that we're talking about. Hand of the Archon.
Oh, that's an S tier for me.
Yeah, I think Hand of the Archon.
Yeah, I'm gonna start on this one because I have opinions on this team. We were talking about Blades of Khaine having the most goddamn rules. This team has an ungodly amount of rules and like 6 different things going on every time they activate. Like, ooh, from darkness death, lethal 5. Here's a pain token. Here's another pain token because I touched you. I killed you as well. So here's a 3rd pain token. Now I'm 3 APL. Like, there's so much this team can do. It is relatively absurd. And honestly, I think you could just make shit up and the team would still perform super well and no one would catch you. I think this team is a really solid S tier in the hands of an extremely competent player who knows them in and out. I think they are one of the best elf teams right now, probably tied with Harlequins.
Okay. Now, I was going to say top of A tier, but it's not a big stretch to push me to S tier. At least the bottom of S tier. Now, here's the thing. They're really, really good at the kill op, and they're really not that great into crit op, right? Or they can be because they're still elves. But Corsairs still do it better than them. I don't know. Everyone's told me that Corsairs are the better version. But
I think it's just because people aren't familiar with Hand of the Archon. Like, it's not a very popular faction compared to Corsairs.
I would agree.
And a lot of people look at it like, well, yeah, these guys have dashes. They're basically 3 APL everywhere. And, Hand of the Archon's conditional 3 APL. But if you know what you're doing, man, like, you're handing out those, like, pain tokens left and right with the drugs and, like, getting your formidable trades.
And they're way better into Marine teams now, like insanely better into Marine teams. And that's like between them and Void Dancers are kind of the things that are holding them back. I talked to Casey Martinson, a really good Hand of the Archon player on the West Coast from Vegas. And he was telling me that Void Dancers are a really difficult matchup for them. It's possible, but things got to go your way. So that's what he said.
They have a ton of piercing weapons, which are really good. Unfortunately, the Void Dancers ignore that. But, I mean, they still have good operatives to trade into there. Like, their duelist parries 2 first. And it's just like, you can kind of cripple somebody with that. The Torment Grenade will smack some Harlequins down over time. And they just have a ton of mortal wounds, which still get by, the 4-pin bones from Harlequins. I don't think it's as bad as it may seem, but Harlequins also just ignore half the game. So there's that.
So we have, I'll zoom in again. So we have Death Core that was painted by me, brought this team to Worlds. And then the rest are GW painted models. We do have, if I can scroll up real quick, I also painted this Hand of the Archon model. The very next model, though, that we have is painted by Garrett Rayner. Who won the Hobby Track ITC, and we'll zoom into him in a few minutes. Now, where are we going to put the Yaegirs? The Yaegirs, they're really good into human teams. Really, really good. 4/4 damage, but they kind of get beat up by Marines really bad. And I don't know the matchup into Elves. I just don't.
I think I'm gonna go into book.
Is this the first one we're putting in?
C tier?
I think D tier.
You think D tier for
I
Yaegirs?
do.
That's punishing. Why?
So they got this whole fun thing, and it doesn't come down to their toolbox. Like, their toolbox isn't bad. But they have this fun ability where they can scout forward turn 1, and I have yet to see what the hell they do with it. Their faction tac ops, well, not their faction tac op, what they're locked into with their tac op is very limiting for what they should be doing. Like, if they had recon, this team would be S tier, but they don't. They're not very good at playing what they have, and I think that just really lets them down more often than not, no matter what team they're playing against. Like, I could see them being in C tier, but from my experience, the team really struggles in a high stakes environment currently, at least.
That's fair. Now it's hard. I mean, we have Jaeger people I can just call.
I like the bombast ability though, and if you're able to go use them at the end and then also go first right away, you could do some fun things.
They have some things, but if you play into that, that's on you. I played against this team because that hasn't changed from last edition. If you do it right, you can usually avoid that until it doesn't really matter. Like, sure, they might get that double shot off, but the whole team's dead.
I'm thinking C tier. I mean, Orion went in the book right away.
Yeah, no, I will happily. You can sign my name in red ink. I think they're bad.
Okay, what about you
using a Sharpie? Yeah, I think I'd put him in C tier sooner than anything else.
Orion got outvoted on this one. I don't disagree with Orion, but they're good. How about this? If we got to bump them down, they'll be the first to bump down to D tier.
That's probably what I would agree with. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. See if I can get that in there. Okay. So Hunter Clade is next. Now, I've talked to a lot of people about Hunter Clade. I don't know anything about Hunter Clade.
Yeah, I don't speak zeros and twos.
I listened to Spanaway talk about Hunter Clade on the Vox Cascadia podcast, and it just goes like a bunch of numbers go in one year and a bunch of numbers come out the other year. I just don't understand beep boop language. I don't know anything about the team. I've heard that some people think that they're S tier now, that they're like Mike Cortez, and a few other people think that they're also like super. I don't think Mike said that. Who said they were S tier? Mike thinks they're really good though, but I don't know. I have no idea about this team.
This is another one of those teams that it was falling a little flat before, but I think it always aims to be the perfectly balanced toolkit. And I think it theoretically can take on any team. Now more so, I think, with Bulwark, because it really messes with a lot of the wound breakpoints. I don't think this team is still competitively busted by any means. I would see them being in C, potentially B, because I haven't seen them play post Data Slate. Before, I do think they were in D, though. So I think they're above that now at the very least.
They were definitely in D tier before it. And they have a lot of AP weaponry, right? There's always
they have P1.
Making them struggle.
There's always going to be Marine teams at your local stores, at your local events. So they're always going to do pretty well into them. They have great melee. They're a great overall team. Yeah, I mean, I'd probably put them at the top of C for me, if I was going to say something, if I had a guess.
Looking at the teams we have now, I could see them being relatively well played into the higher teams.
Let me see what their win rate used to be. It's on our website, squadgames.net. As long as my phone wants to work.
I'm feeling like a low B, because Ryan, you made a good point. They realistically could play into anything, and I think that's a good toolkit. Then if you started with I think the thing to start with them is harder because you have to buy so many models. But I think you're right.
We have infinite money.
We have infinite money in this scenario. And we.
So my thing is, I don't think they're any worse than Vanguard.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and you could probably kill Angels of Death with them.
Yeah,
they might even.
They have conditionally better toolbox than Vanguard.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree.
I think they have to haul in B.
Yeah, and they started off with 38% win rate compared to Vetguard had a 20% win rate. So
Ugh.
yeah, that's what they used to have. So we'll put them in B tier for now, and then we'll try to remember. Okay, can we not do that? All right. This is the price of beauty. The price of beauty, everyone. Inquisition. They used to be one of the top tier teams. And in fact, a lot of the Polish still think that they are still the best horde team in the game. And multiple other players that I've spoken to still think that they are the best human horde team in the game. And it's hard to argue with a bunch of people when I ask them. And they all say that they're still amazing. What do you guys think?
Well,
A
you
tier?
said the Polish think they're really good. Well, I'm half Polish, so I'm gonna have to put them up there in S tier as well.
Wow, in S tier. Wow.
Yep, my Semensky blood's coming in strong.
Whoa. I would have thought with their loss of having multiple piercing weapons, with
Mhm.
the changes to really just one model, which we'll get to in some amount of time.
So
that would have.
you want to know the fun thing about that piercing thing?
Mm-hmm.
So they got a bunch of those piercing weapons, which is great, and it got negated by some of those piercing crit or the no piercing rules. Now they've lost their ability to have all of those piercing weapons, and they're like, oh no, what do we do? Anyway, here's the heavy bolter. Here's the hot shot volley guns, which will now still affect the Marines because they're going to get those crits via Quarry, turning a guaranteed hit to a crit, which means they're going to turn off piercing crit abilities for saving. So I don't think anything shifted for them because their weapons came down.
I've also heard people say that you drop the Pistolier now, which because it's a P1 weapon, and instead you take like the plasma gun from Kasrkin and the Melta, the heavy bolter, and a sniper, and you have just as much like lethality as before. You know?
Yeah, the lethality is just shifted slightly, but everyone's defense is also shifted. So it's just kind of like, well, what really changed?
Nothing much, in my opinion.
Then by that thought process, yeah, we should put him in S.
I think also as new players, if you're looking for Inquisition, they are one of the most expensive teams to collect. You do have to play a leader that has a book. I am biased. I don't like it. I like hero leaders, but they are a super good faction for a very strong faction. And anytime any other team gets buffed, a lot of times they'll also see buffs. So if you're looking for a very stable team for the future, Inquisition is probably a good pick.
Now, the one thing I will say, the team could come down a peg because I think players will suffer from mispositioning a lot more now. Because A, the Tome Skull doesn't come back, and
Correct.
B, they can't just dash their problems away like they could before. So you will see them lose a lot more now, I think, just to positional mistakes more than anything else.
They are still a human horde team, which is a glass cannon. They're very difficult to pilot. So if you don't know who to denounce, when to denounce, you can run into some problems. Now we got Corsairs, who is a team that I am actively trying to paint up. Them and some Striking Scorpions. I put together a bunch of Striking Scorpions last night.
Nice.
Yeah, some new ones, not using my old metal models. Just because the Eldar release is coming out, I might disappear from Kill Team for a little bit. I got 14,000 points of Eldar. I bought a bunch more. Sue me, okay? So Corsairs, pretty good. I think an S tier for sure.
I think they suffer from the same problems Blades of Khaine does.
I was going to put him in A.
Yeah, I think they're right. They're holding hands with Blades of Khaine.
Mm-hmm. I would say a little superior because there's not as many like, oh, here's 15 different things. Figure it out. Corsairs is a little more straightforward.
Well, they're way more straightforward.
Way more straightforward. So I would put them in A for sure. Like they're probably beating Blades of Khaine most of the time.
Yeah, so them being straightforward is also a blessing the curse, right? Because you can predict what they're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
You can see the Shade Runner. You know where he goes. You can see the switcheroo happening if you're paying attention. So
Yeah.
I think their tricks aren't as cut and clear as Blades of Khaine, where Blades of Khaine can always gotcha in the right scenario.
True. Yeah, I think Corsairs are very good. I think that they're better than you guys are giving them credit for, but that is okay.
The only reason I put them there is because they don't have the consistency that the top teams have. If you
Yeah.
look at Hand of the Archon, any of their weapons at any point in time can have ceaseless, or their defense dice can have ceaseless. Corsairs have the ability to, I think, a punishing and a reroll, but that's still very conditional, and they don't want to spend their CP on rerolls because they desperately need those for their tricks.
Literally everything
Um,
else.
yeah, so they are conditional on like having a good day throughout the entire event.
Yeah, Corsairs are also they do have a great alpha strike, and they can delete a marine, or they can delete multiple models in a single turn. So that is something that they definitely have. But the Hand of the Archon also has like a seek bird that can like, I can see your sniper, I'm going to wound him, you know? So like
Well,
there's
that dude also has a Obscuring, Seek Light, hitting on twos, Dev 2 weapon,
yeah.
which is also gross.
Yes. That's
That's
the
just
guy
one dude.
who
Yeah.
yeah. That's the guy I was talking about. We have Starstriders up next. I was able to pilot the old Death Corps against Starstriders and table them. I think Starstriders are bad.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I could be wrong, you know, like maybe they're cool, but like if you could just run melee hand axe vet guard with the fight ploy or attach bayonets and nets and just kill the team in melee with a couple like shots.
Mhm.
I mean, I just don't think they have the legs. I put them in D
Sad.
tier.
I don't know if they're in D tier. Really,
I put him
I
in
think one of the
C.
things, yeah, I haven't seen too many players play them super heavily, but I would say if Colt's coming back, who really doesn't like Colt? The Starstriders. Um, like they can do nothing to Colt.
Melee hordes, and look at Fellgor are going to be good, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Gellerpox got a pretty big buff. So,
Rustalkers stocks are on the rise.
yep. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I think they're D tier. What do you think, G? Where are you putting them?
I'm putting them in C for right now because that sky cannon is still pretty good. Can do some stuff, and they have a good amount of bodies to play like missions if they want to go get it. But they're
Orion, did you put
definitely
them in there as well?
I put them in C because they do have the toolkit to get themselves out of certain situations, but there's some situations they will not be able to beat.
Mhm.
Um, like sometimes when the sky cannon hits, it slaps.
Yeah.
It's
So you
swinging.
think they're going, so you think the majority of players going to go 50-50 at a tournament with them?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think they're always going to lose all the time.
Okay.
I
That's fair.
think
I
their
mean, that
toolkit's
is
just way
fair.
too diverse.
Yeah. I mean, they still do beat other teams. So Exaction's up next, fellas. Where are we going to put Exaction at?
I want to love them more, but I can't in my heart say I do.
Are we going to go Kellen on these guys and put them in S tier?
No.
No.
That aged like milk.
In fact, the milk was never good. The only time you'll see Exaction in S tier is in Inquisition.
Mhm.
That is literally it. I definitely think that they're better than they were last edition. I don't think that they're D tier. They could be though. I mean, I've seen Alexander Popov pilot them, and he played him pretty well, but he played Kasrkin really well at LVO. He decided not to take Exaction. So
I think is this the first D?
I want to say this team is probably in the D category.
Yeah, I think I
If they
gotta
had
push
gotten
it.
anything to boost them up this time around, I think it'd be fine. I could see them in C. Um, and
The
I think a
shotguns are
really, yeah, like there's some matchups they do pretty well in too. Um, but I think
yeah, they're great.
overall,
They're great into human teams.
mm-hmm.
Um, they're really bad into like power armor elites. They're pretty bad into. They can stay with some elves, but not all of them.
They
Elves
can't
can just
always
two
hang.
tap them. Yeah, they had a 36% win rate last time. They don't really have a lot of P1 weapons. They didn't really see an external buff, in my opinion. So I think I'm relatively okay with putting them in D tier.
I think it's our first one of the night.
Yeah, I think the top teams have come down, but not nearly enough to the point where they'd rise up.
Yeah. Welcome to your first D tier.
Oh, I'm
with
sorry,
a
Space
slight note
Cops.
that if you play with the shields on maybe Into the Dark against melee teams, maybe you could push them back. That'd be
That's
kind
what
of
they
cool.
said last edition.
That's the
and it
only
didn't work. It
yeah,
didn't
that's
work.
it. And yeah, that's I can't even make a good argument for it. It's staying in D. Which then we come to the team that would we would say they could do this too, but they probably can't.
Well, that was the thing last time. Everyone thought that they could beat Fellgor. They thought that they could.
Yeah, the thing is, like, they didn't beat Fellgor. They just didn't lose to Fellgor. Nobody lost. They all just stayed on the board and looked at each other.
That's true. And
because
then they
the
still
Fellgor-
lost.
Right.
Yeah.
You lost the mission.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. And Fellgor are just better at kill op and everything else than them. I think Fellgor is definitely an A tier.
Mhm.
I could put him in S tier.
No.
The very bottom. I mean, you know more than I do, Orion, on these guys.
The team's solid, but it definitely has more counters than it used to.
Okay.
And I think that's something a lot of people are, not looking at quite so much. A Frenzy Goat back in the day used to be like, well, he's going to do something. But now, like, with so many teams having access to stun grenades or ways to stun, sometimes you can
You're
just
right.
stun.
Yeah, they
You can
take
stun a
those a lot of
Fellgor now,
stuns.
and he just dies. And it's like, well, who really frenzy? I think this team is fine. I think it's in the B tier category. I don't think it's as high as it used to be. It's just because it can't bully teams the way it used to. But it's still good.
I mean, there are some Fellgor players out here that have been able to find success into like Legionary, Nemesis Claw. But they haven't been confident enough to take them to events. So how good are
Can
they
they
really?
Yeah. The introduction of the keyword severe has also severely brought their stocks down.
Just forcing crits to get them out of
Stuns,
frenzy.
stuns and severe. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I'm okay with putting them. I think you made a
valid point.
A really good argument for it, All right. We're looking at Salvagers next. Who's going to put me in the book on this one? I told Aiden I was going to put him in D tier. So there we go. Putting them in D tier. I can run at these guys too and beat them with hand axes.
Now, is this a personal bias? Like, you just can't not put them in D tier?
Yep.
Okay, so Giacomo, what do you think? Ignoring this
C tier.
Let's see. C tier? No.
Okay, I could give you B. I could give you B.
Bro,
I mean, they're at least as good as
You think an A?
I do think A, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Really?
Well, convince me. I'm curious. I like dwarves.
Convince the audience and convince the dwarves.
This team has one of the most unique alpha strikes of crack grenades that I've ever seen in my life.
With the jump pack?
Yeah, with the jump pack, they can do it, hit somebody with a grudge token, they can make them hit on a 3-up, and then turn 2, they just do it again automatically because they steal initiative turn 2 for some reason. There's almost nothing you can do to win initiative turn 2, unless you break ties and you roll a 6 and they roll a 1.
They do get +4 to their roll if they, or at least minimum 3 typically.
Yeah, minimum 3. They can take 4, and it's just like that means they get a 5, so you have to roll really higher, a 5 or higher. And usually that's just 2 dead guys. Because it's a crack grenade hitting on 3s. If they potentially are near an objective, I think they can get rerolls. That's just one dude.
They are also good into Legionary.
Yes.
So they're good into Legionary. They have a good toolkit. So they're not perfect. I could see them being in B. I think we've seen skilled players on the East Coast here put them really high. But I think B would be a fair assessment for them, just because they do hit on 4s at the end of the day.
I'll believe it when I see them start to win like multiple events.
Right, they rely on the ancestors a lot.
I think A is like they're gonna probably take multiple events this period. S will probably be like the majority.
Yeah, I'd be fine putting him in B.
Yeah.
Or now, yeah, I can see Bede.
They're better than their little brothers, and that's only because P1 is pretty dang good, you know?
I do like, yeah, they're not the bolter, the laser they can take.
Yeah,
One of the two. They either
guys,
take the laser or the bolter.
I mean, they have
breachers are up
piercing
next.
crits, normal bolters.
They do.
Breachers.
Breachers are up next. You get 2 Meltas. Unfortunately, they did not give the model that they originally had. They did not give them back. They got their old attack defense things back, and you know they got a couple old rules back. But I'm still not pumped on these homies, to be honest.
They have it so that the leader can change stuff as well, right? The orders, right?
I think
One
he
of
gets
their
it for free
Yes.
now, or something like that.
Yeah, it does it for free.
Like
yeah,
he
that's what
used
he
to
did,
last
right?
edition.
Yeah, exactly. Which should have just kind of been that way. I
This
think
stuff doesn't move the needle for me.
Yeah, it's
No.
not really changing it to the point where like, wow, this is like when you could do breach and clear, and it just like if you were good enough to do breach and clear, you just won.
Dakotah,
Yeah.
Dakotah.
I think we're putting him in D.
The thing with breach and clear last edition is it used to score you a butt ton of points, and kill a model. Now you just kill a model, which isn't that great.
Yeah, for me, I think breachers are just, while they can beat other human teams, right? They could, right? They could beat Starstriders, they could beat Death Corps. I still have scars from those memories. They're just not nearly reliable enough. And I mean, unless if I get proven wrong, like maybe double Melta is like the jam, you know? But I'm still yeah. So we have Legionary up next. I easily think that Legionary got tapped pretty difficult, like pretty hard, but I don't know if they dropped out of S tier.
Yeah, they got hit hard, ? But I think they were just made more fair.
Yeah.
But then they also got ceaseless.
Yeah, I think I'm keeping them in S.
I don't think they move that much, really.
They could drop to A tier. I'm not gonna lie, right? Like they could drop just down to A tier.
Yeah, they could.
They could, but I'm okay comfortably right now putting them in S tier.
Yeah, don't throw away your
I don't think anyone in the comment section is going to be like, "Hey guys, you guys are ding dongs.
Legionnaires are bad." You know, that's not happening.
They're still pretty dang good.
Yeah, still
super good.
They became fair, like you said, Orion.
So Nemesis Claw, yes, Nemesis Claw, while taking a nerf, while seeing Legionary get nerfed and Warpcoven get nerfed, they're two kind of like biggest scary guys. I think got better. You know, I don't think they're B tier for me anymore. I definitely think they're A tier.
Yes.
I definitely think so. I think they're still maybe a step below Legionary and Warpcoven, but
yep, they're holding hands with Blades of Khaine and Corsairs. They just can't beat their brothers, but they're up there in A.
What do you think, Orion?
I can see them in A. It's one of those weird teams where they're Marines, but they're the most fragile team of elites, and sometimes that's just like really painful for them. That is one of the teams that definitely suffers the worst from really good rolls from the opponent because they have nothing to do about it. There's nothing that's unfair that lets them protect themselves.
Other than obscuring, they have
you have always obscuring.
They just have an innate obscuring.
Unless you're within 6, I mean, it's so easy to break.
It is.
But like unless your Ratlings hanging all the way back, but then you just ignore obscuring anyway.
Yeah, I think also about Nemesis is that I think that I think they're better than Angels of Death. They still slap them pretty hard, right? So
I'll defer to you guys on that one.
They also have a great, like they just straight up counter some teams sometimes. Like it used to be way worse to Wrekas and way worse to Mandrakes and a few other teams, but they still have like an anti-APL. Just like, what are you doing? Like, can you not have that, please? And then they could just take stuns and just be like, oh, you have 1 APL. Oh, you can't give him +1. Take that.
You know? And there's never a game where the Ventriloquar hasn't like done something to the point where your opponent's like,
Yeah, move a model
No.
out, then I'm gonna
Yeah.
just nuke a bunch of dudes with this. Like,
Or make them lose an APL. They're just like, now I really can't do anything in this moment I thought I was gonna get to. I think they're standing on stolen armored legs.
that's fair. That's fair.
So I'm okay with it.
All right. So we have Farstalker Kinband up next. Now this one's interesting. Now Orion, you said you took these guys to Worlds. You're pretty opinionated on them, right? But
Sort of, yeah.
I've also been hearing a couple other kill teamers and content creators are pretty dang hyped on them. And Jimmy Kelly played a game against Farstalkers and got destroyed. And he thinks that these guys are really, really good now after he got beat up really bad. Jimmy Kelly is a local and he won ITC. That's why I refer to him. He's pretty good. He's pretty good. What do you think, Orion? Where would you put Farstalker since you are the expert, I would say, on this team?
The team, since I was playing them last, the team definitely comes up a step just from the Cutthroats change alone. Having that extra melee attack means you actually get to use the ploy now. Because retaliating is a big deal for them because their weakest spot is melee. They really crumble in melee hard, despite having some good melee. The thing that's really keeping them down, I think, is the fact that there's a lot of 8-wound teams that are going to be in the top slots, and they really struggle with 8-wound teams. I can't tell you how many times playing that team, if you have 8 wounds, you're alive on 1. Because there's so many times where you have all these fun keywords and you deal 7 damage. And it's really great. This team is fantastic at bullying human teams, but anything that just has 1 wound higher just ruins the break points. So I don't think this team is like super competitive, like some people might be coping. I think they're in B. I think they do have the capabilities to win a lot of matchups, but like Harlequin specifically, there's not much you can do in that matchup. They're going to get into your front lines. They're going to take out your gunners before they really get a chance to do something. Some of your gunners just don't work as well because they have invuln saves essentially. It's a very difficult matchup into the elf teams, I would say.
Okay. I'm okay with putting him in B. It's probably where I would have put him after hearing a bunch of stuff, and our resident expert also puts him in there. Now,
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure we're gonna run out of B
Some
B
guys
spots
are
here
move
pretty
to
soon.
C.
Some people are gonna have to soon enough.
Not if I start getting spicy, yeah.
Gellerpox. Now you are the Gellerpox King. Another that is a moniker that I have given Orion. I'm going to put it out there before Orion tells us where they go because whatever he says, I'm just going to agree. I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to lie. This is another one that Dan was like, these guys are not good. They're D tier. I think he said that. I might be lying. I think they're probably like C tier, bottom of C tier. I still don't see like Deathcore like playing super great into them because I get smashed by them. I still have bad memories. What do you think, G? And then we'll go to Orion, and Orion will just tell us where they are and why.
Well, since they sort of shifted playstyles where glitchlings kind of want to also be up front now, instead of just being like tap point, and do something, hold positions. That is something that I look into, like, because when you play this team, you ignore the big guys, or you try to ignore them, right? You fight the small things that are going to go do the jobs or hinder you, because old Slappy's going to slap you. You're dead. There's nothing you can do about that. You just die. So don't deal with it. So I think that change was like it's cool that the changes they got. It was cool. I don't think it's fantastic. They're playable at least. Like I could probably see them in B. Where you could run them and have a good time, but they'll probably lose to anything in A or S.
Oh yeah, I can see that. Orion, what do you think?
Put them in the bin. Put them down.
You put them in the D tier? All right.
Put them in the D tier. I don't
Okay,
care what
we're gonna
you
go
say.
with it.
I'm going to
We're
override
gonna go
both.
with
They're
it.
in the D tier.
Okay, yeah.
So this
do you
team,
tell us why?
Not really. It hurts, but
okay.
I need the pain. Please tell me.
So once again, much like Torments or much like Chaos Cult, stun grenades and razor wire exist.
Yeah, those are great things.
Now, unlike the Chaos Cult, we move a lot slower and we have no ways to fix that. So it means a lot of times we just can't get over razor wire. And if we can, that means we get stuck right behind a barricade, which is conveniently 2 inches away. And if we do manage to get there, there's a good chance we just get 2 hits, which is real sad. Their consistency, if drawn to the hum and Blessings of Infection hadn't changed for this team, I think even with the old 5-0 Feel No Pain, they'd still have a shot. But there is no consistency in this team. There are 0 rerolls outside of the mutants. And the mutants are not supposed to be carrying the consistency of this team. The Hulks are. But, you basically have to spend a CP to make sure you don't fail more than, 3 dice. That's never a great feeling with this team.
That's
on
fair.
top of all the other hurdles you have to get over already. So
Now,
the changes were great,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think it's nearly enough compared to where the top teams are.
Now, I was saying that we were going to talk about brand new players for all these teams, and then I kept forgetting. Gellerpox is a really easy team to collect. They're a 1-box team. So if you like them, they are fun, they are cool, and they will beat people just because they do have some really big stuff, like dudes, and people don't know how to play into them. But they are kind of in the struggle bus at the moment. So you might beat people just because of some stats and stuff, but it's not going to be a regular thing.
Yeah.
For new players.
They are fun now. Win or lose, I think they are fun to play.
Okay.
Big guys running around just causing sporadic damage is always a good time. Rest spikes is a hell of a drug. Just smacking people with 1 to 2 mortal wounds all over the place. It gets very annoying very quick for your opponent.
It's fair. Hierotek Circle's up next. They did not get rid of the kill op, surprisingly. In fact, it looks like GW likes them ignoring kill op stuff, or they just straight forgot to take that out of the team. I guess we'll find out next balanced data slate. But they did get a slew of other nerfs, and with the slew of other nerfs, oh goodness. They
slurs can we come up with?
Living metal Terminators,
robot Egyptians. I don't know.
Scarab head.
Oh, I like that one. That's a good
I like
one.
that one. That's a good one. Yeah, I definitely think that the team is a lot worse than it used to be. And if they got rid of the kill up now, I think it would just really put the team in D tier. So I think that's the only thing that really keeping them strong. But I still think the team is pretty strong. I just don't. They're definitely not S tier, in my opinion. If they're an A or B tier, I think stats and time will tell. Just because they are kind of like some people just won't be able to beat them, because it's like, oh, I killed the dudes and they just all came back.
Mm-hmm. And lose out on
even
the kill
with
op.
even with 1 wound, it doesn't matter. They're just like a better Fellgor death mechanic, which they should be. They're Necrons. Orion, what are you thinking about these guys?
They're shooting Fellgor. I mean, I think you said it the best. I think they definitely came down from the top rungs, but I don't see them being any worse than B tier. They still have great capabilities to win most games. And they're still a good team. I really wish the kill op thing had just gotten rid of and then not nerfed as hard. It feels a little worse to rely on that as your mechanic rather than your actual faction rules. But whatever.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yep, I think
Okay.
B is solid.
All right, B it is.
I mean, I feel like anything that comes back to life is already stronger.
And heals.
Has a chance to do, and heals. To just do one more hoorah, it's like, oh, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah. Kasrkin. The highest placed Kasrkin was Alexander Popov at the LVO, and he had a place to 38th out of 150. So they're not bad, right?
I'm going to cut you off right here. And I'm going to tell you why. We don't need to go any further in explanations. Kasrkin is in the D tier, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because if you want to play Kasrkin to a really effective way, you just play Inquisition. The best way to play Kasrkin is just
to play Inquisition.
Well, that's the same thing with Death Corps.
It's not, because Death Corps specifically is better with their abilities built in.
I'm sorry, Alex. I'm sorry, Emperor. I'm sorry.
I mean, I'm kind of in agreement. Like, what was their change? Their change was a nerf to Inquisition. What does that tell you about the team?
Yeah.
Like, where were they showing up? You know?
Well, I think that this team is going to do immensely better when we start to see them. I think this team is going to be immensely better, for sure.
Yeah.
Right?
I just don't think they're competitively viable because there is an alternative way to play them.
If they
I don't.
could, mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's no point in placing them on the scale because there's just a superior way to play them.
Yeah, I can see that. Kommandos are up next. Orion, you had a lot of success behind the scenes with this team, but didn't bring them to any large events. Is there a reason why, and where are you thinking about putting these guys? Did not perform well either in the data. In the data, they're really, really bad. They have a 31% win rate with 220 games, and they placed. I think they won one tournament and placed in one tournament.
Yeah, they're a cool team. And I think they do have some fun abilities from the last edition, but they are definitely not the last edition menace they used to be. The Grots maybe scoring you 1 to 2 points a turn, opposed to like all of them last edition.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're in C tier. I think they're a really going even team.
Mm-hmm.
It's difficult. It's difficult for me to want to put them below C tier for sure.
So they're not a bad team, and they're fun to play. If you're a new player, they're a ton of fun still.
Mm-hmm.
But I think their kit really hasn't changed, but a lot of people above them have different tools to play the new edition better.
Yeah, Mandrakes is up next. The Shadow Elves. These were painted by. This photo was painted by Alex Popov. I think that these guys are A tier. I think that they're really strong. With the buff to the 4-inch heavy wall deployment is also a strong point for them as well, because they can always guarantee some form of darkness somewhere, even if they're playing somebody who has 15 or 14 models. Like looking behind every nook and cranny, they still have a place to teleport to. I think they're pretty good. I think they're really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, I think the team's cool. I think there's still some matchups they struggle in just because they don't have their toolkit doesn't beat every team, and they can't change their toolkit. I would put them in B just because I think they're the weakest elf team, but
Really?
I could see them being an A, especially if you're playing on GW and not Dakotah's boards, because the third vantage is there, and that is a big boon for them being able to teleport up there.
That's fair. And also, Games Workshop's Into the Dark maps are also pretty bad for them because they're just giant open rooms. So yeah, those are. Gosh, I didn't even think about that. They could teleport to the third vantage. That's kind of grody.
Ew.
Yeah, because there's heavy up there specifically.
Yeah. So you guys want to put them in B tier? They can't go any lower than B tier.
They can't.
We can't.
No.
This team cannot drop.
I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah. If anything, I got outruled. You can flame these two. Don't flame me, elf lovers.
So they're still a good team. I just think they're the worst Eldar team at the moment because their kit is so static.
Right. It's just one job and that's it.
I mean, I think that they're really good into like a lot of different, like certain factions.
Mm-hmm. I don't disagree.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's some factions they cannot fix, unlike their cousins.
So Pathfinders is the next team. Everyone kind of looks down on Pathfinders. I've always said, even in our last data slate, I think Pathfinders have legs. I think they had legs before. I think they have legs now. I don't think the team is D tier. If you both overrule me, so be it. They don't deserve a buff, even though they have a 26% win rate. But they only have 29 games played. They were one of the least played teams. Chaos Cult had 10 games last data slate. Gellerpox Infected had 13, and they had 29. They're the third least most played team currently.
What do you think, G?
I think there's a lot of content creators out there besmirching the greater good.
I think they have enough varied stuff to keep them out of D, but still kind of not quite strong enough to push into B. Any of the B teams I'm really seeing here. I think they're falling in C, and that's not a terrible place for them.
Yeah, I'd put them at like the lowest C we possibly could. Like, if nothing else goes in C tier, I still want them at the tail end of C.
Okay.
Still sitting in the back.
Got outvoted by. If you were outvoted, we know where you want to place them, Orion.
Listen, as
we know.
much as I'd love them to hold hands right next to Thriskers there, I do think they're conditionally better. But I think it is a very, very small step. Like, they got a step stool above D tier.
I mean, they're just better than every team below them by a lot. You know,
They can do
in
a
my
lot more.
opinion. Yeah. Plague Marines are up next. Orion took these, performed the best with them at Worlds, and not at Worlds. LVO took third place. No other Plague Marine player got near. There was one Plague Marine player at Worlds to make the top 16. I think the team is A tier minimum, for sure.
I wouldn't argue.
Nope, I wouldn't argue either. A tier is a great slot for them. Just put
I
them in
think
the
this
third.
is. I think this team is also really good for new players, just like Angels of Death, right? I think there's a reason why they're in the Kill Team starter box. There's only 7 viable teams for them to play, or models. They're not terribly difficult to learn, but they have a really high skill ceiling. So you can take them to events and do really well, or you can take them to your local stores and just dominate people because your stats are just that much better. And they're fun. You know, some people like COVID. I don't, you know?
Yep. They have a cool alternate win condition where, like, if you're just poisoning enough things, like, that'll get the job done.
Kill
As
off
where, like,
wins.
a lot of teams have to do these breakpoints to win or lose the fights. They're just kind of like, well, I'll leave you for later. It's fine. You'll keel over in a pile somewhere.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the change of the banner, I don't think was the worst thing. Yeah, it does suck. Maybe 2 turns. It takes you to get to the point for free, but you could still spend it for one.
I will tell you, I just played a tournament yesterday.
Wow.
I had to spend for Contagion 0 times.
Really? So you made it to that side pass. Okay, so it was not a problem.
Yeah, no.
Well,
So
it depends. How did you do, Orion?
Oh, I won the event.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I mean, I figured, but I had to ask, you know,
yeah.
I had to be sassy. Be like, oh, did you get last place?
Now,
You had to
conditionally,
defend it?
I only won the event by 1 point because we didn't do a 4th round, so it wasn't like a huge event. And there's still 2 undefeateds, but yeah, I mean, the team's perfectly fine. They got a slight nerf, but also a slight buff with the Psyker being able to fight twice. I've never done that or wanted to do that, but I can now, so that's cool.
I've heard a lot of great things about Scout Squad. I've heard that, you know, they have unlimited stun grenades. I think the team is pretty cooked, pretty cracked in the right hands. But I definitely think they're a lot higher skill cap. Getting an extra APL is great. Getting an extra scouting option is great, but it didn't really like push them that much further. I don't think. I think the team's was being held back by Legionary and Warpcoven like drastically. There's just no way they could have won. Now, I still have a hard time seeing them beat Warpcoven, but you know, what do you guys think?
I wish they got that 10th model because I have a box of, you get a box of 10 and you got one of you just has to sit out forever.
You want to put them right back into S tier, huh? S for Scout.
I mean, I think
if they had 10
right
models,
now,
I think they're an S tier.
I think that would push them to A. I think they're like, for sure, B. Like they're doing a lot. 10 wounds is a lot, and they're the 6 abilities instead of 5 now is nice, and being able to get the free APL one, like it's a good team. I'm not seeing them crack anything crazily because they have the heavy bolter, they have the missile launcher, and the sniper. The knives is pretty good. I don't know. That's how I feel like they're in B for me.
Okay, what do you think, Orion?
I think this team's maybe I'm a little biased, but I think this team's an S. And I'll tell you why. Before, I think they were in like low B. But one of the greatest things that held them back was elites being able to ignore all of their heavy weapons effectively. Now, one of the things you guys didn't mention is up to twice per turn, they can get lethal 5 and saturate on their gunners, or anyone who wants it. And that is devastating for the people who have the piercing crits negates piercing, because they can just turn that on. And with their ability to do gunfire ambush, that really increases their consistency to get criticals to make their piercing go off. They're guaranteeing 3 mortal wounds from their sniper pretty much every time they shoot, who also ignores obscuring, and saturate. So it's just like you're not hiding from that dude. I think the team is very good, especially with the 6th scouting option. They're just going to absolutely dumpster the field with equipment and booby traps that nobody wants. And you're going to have to play around those. And by playing around those, you're going to get put in the -1 bubbles. And then stun grenades will get you if you're not in that bubble. I think the team is incredibly versatile and I put him in A at the bare.
I am okay with putting him in S tier just for clicking.
Okay, I got outvoted.
No, I think that you make a good point. I've heard of a couple people on the East Coast doing really, really well with them.
Shout out to Kevin Starr.
Kevin Starr is doing really, really good with them. I don't know if they're in S tier. I think they'll probably be the bottom S tier. I would have said that Legionaries at the bottom, but I just.
So I think they have the tools to handle Legionary, which I think before they did not.
With the change to piercing crits.
Oh, that's a hot take. I'm not against it. So I guess
I am fully okay with being alone with it, but I definitely think they're A.
I think I was going to put them in A. Giacomo, has he convinced you? What I think we gotta,
He convinced me for A. But if we're putting S, let's roll it. Whatever.
He said, "Let's roll it." That
Yep,
means
here we go.
yeah.
Yeah, the comments can flame me for this one. This will be our hottest take potentially.
Wow, they're really making a comeback at the end of 2nd edition here.
So I think just the smallest changes here and the nerfs, really line up with them perfectly.
Imagine getting one more model, Jesus.
Yeah, honestly, like what they got now, I think is better than just getting +1 operative.
But including what they got now, like
yeah.
That's where I think, for me personally, it would have shot him to S. Like, what? Now you have another body that can do this?
Wow, Kevin Starr pushing the meta over here on squad games.
All right.
Vespids are up next. Vespids, I have no clue on. I was really low on them beforehand. Communion points were kind of like my biggest sticking point about the team overall. It kind of got fixed. P1 is huge now. The team has a ton of P1. They have fly. I think the team's pretty good. I think it's pretty good. But where to put them? I don't know. I think they're better than. I think they're
C at best.
Really?
Communion points not getting deleted anymore and having to rely on roll, which means you'd also be taking the equipment every time. And then now having the drone that can give you, is it either
it's lethal 5 or something?
Yeah. Like that's already better.
The team was in D tier, and it got better. Did it get marginally better? I wouldn't say so. I think they move up a rung.
I think the nerfs would have made them, from all the other teams, I think would have put them in B tier. But
it makes their elite matchup better, but I don't think it makes their elf matchup any better. These guys crumble in melee. Like, it is outrageous how bad they fold.
Tell my striking scorpions that.
Yeah.
Tell them that. Tell them that Giacomo beat the holy living
barely survived in melee.
The elf turds out of me by with his stun, with his lethal 5s. It made me utterly sad. I had a guy alive for 6,000 years, fought a bug that was 7 years old, rolled a bunch of 1s, re-rolled all of my dice with my command points, and re-rolled all 1s, and I died. Upsetting.
Because you've been playing, Imperium teams for so long, and now you're just a race trader for the teams.
Hey,
so
I have 14,000 points of Eldar, okay? If anything, I race traded for humans.
Come down to California. Let's find out.
He slept in my house once. He knows. He's seen.
He's lying, folks. I was in the house. It was nothing but Vecard. The shelves were just lined with Vecard teams.
Hold on. Here's one.
Yeah, he's gonna pull out a bunch.
I'm just gonna say it's the same one.
They're too far away.
That'd be even better. It's the same one 100 times.
All right, so we're going to
Brings them
Wreka
up from
Krew
different
next.
camera angles.
Vespids, I think, are a great starting faction. I think they're pretty good. They're pretty fun. For starters, I think Wreka's also going to be, since it's up next, is also a really fun team. And it's great for starters. It has a lot of, it doesn't have like a terribly low floor. So you're going to win some games just because you roll well, just because of your weighted dice.
They're swingy.
They're swingy, they're fun, and they're orcs. And what's better than that for new players? For these guys, we saw them place all the way up to like at least 15th at LVO, right? So like by Arturo Cortez, and I don't know if they placed any higher. They before the balanced data slate, they were already beating the crap out of like Legionaries and stuff. I think they're only better. What do you guys think?
I think what Arturo did was something legendary.
Yeah, if the times I've played them now, if you get a game where you're like rolling sixes and it's like hot, your what are they called? Your squigs are blowing up, getting you those extra sixes too. Like then it's your game. But then I've had games where I've rolled no sixes and to hit on 5 sucks. Like it's just awful.
All right.
So Wrekas can beat any team on this list. That's one of their greatest assets. One of their greatest deficits is they can lose to any team on this list.
Even Breachers.
Like personally, I wouldn't even put them on the list. I'd put them in the Wreka list. Like put a W down the bottom, and that's where they're at. Like I legitimately think they're the biggest wildcard team you can pick. But if you're going for fun, they're S tier.
They have a very good flavor.
So do you think we're putting them in B tier? Are we putting them in where wild card? We have to put them in. We have to put
wild B, a wild B.
A wild B.
The thing is, they could fully take a tournament if someone's rolling up with like fantastic dice rolls for the day, or like they could just lose every single match because that's how they wreck themselves sometimes.
Yeah, they didn't take any events last data slate, though they weren't around that long. They placed only once. They showed up at 4 events. So yeah, I think B is statistically average as well. Statistically, even though they depend on non-statistically average dice.
I said statistically going on the tier list, they would be in C because that's even if they were like 4 and 4 for an 8-round event.
Let's put them in C.
But it's just that's where I like. Where I just like put them in their own little thing just because they could beat anybody on this list.
Right. Can you put them in between C and B? Is that a thing? Do they just fall in this realm of like? I think they deserve a B for like because if you go all melee, the melee is very reliable. The shooting, but you're gonna use the shooting guys. So like
the thing that the melee is only reliable though if you have the shooting to give you the points to back it up.
Right, to give you the Wreka points. You need them both. And it's a little scary.
I'll put them here for now. Maybe afterwards I'll make a little little wild card box, and be like, oh, orcs believe. If you believe hard enough, you can win.
The wild card.
Warpcoven. They saw a lot of nerfs. Is it enough to take them out of S tier? Maybe. I think so. But I could still see them beating a lot of. They still leave a really foggy taste in my mind.
Just pivot to more of Zangors.
Yeah, I mean Zangor's got a little nerf too, but it's not awful, right? Like
Relic Hunters is not that bad of a loss.
Dan said that they're the top of A, and he won with Worlds, so I would be willing to put him there.
I mean, if he said it, I'd be inclined. He did win with them.
Well, yeah, that was a different time and place.
That's true.
I think this team has tools that people still haven't seen yet because all the Warpcoven players I've seen have played the exact same list. Everyone's just copying the same guy, going down the list, copying this guy, but they're all the same list. When you're taking like the sorcerers. Yeah, so I think there's so many plays that the team still has in the cookbook that we haven't seen yet. And I think that keeps them in S because there's going to be like, oh, well, we got rid of this, but this is disgusting now.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that just because, I mean, like top of A is essentially S tier anyways. So, I mean, I'm willing to put them in S tier just because, I mean, that is a very valid argument. What about you,
They
G?
have the diversity to handle everything still.
I'm like in the same boat. I almost would put them in A just because they're in an experimental zone right now. And maybe the experiments don't quite work out. Like they can beat a lot of things, but just like Inquisition, Legionary, Scout squads who like we know what they can do, are just gonna trump them. And I think that to me would just keep them in A.
I can see that.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay,
it's
let's
just
keep them in A.
not quite.
Top A.
Top. I
Well,
can live with top A. We'll readjust that later.
Yes. We have Novitiates up next. They were pretty much a bottom S tier team last time. They got nerfed quite heavily for what people were abusing on the team. Is this team the exact same as Warpcoven? Do they have a really deep playbook, or was that their only trick?
These girls were hanging on a prayer, quite literally, on this.
Some
Like
prayer
they just
beads.
wouldn't die.
Hanging on a beacon, if you will.
Yeah, like you couldn't die if somebody couldn't meet your actual damage threshold, and that obviously skews it in your favor. Now they can die. They're a lot more balanced, which is good, but I think that they were really holding on to the cheese, and without the cheese, I think they're falling down the ladder kind of hard for me.
That's
I
fair.
think they're hitting B. They're hitting B for me.
They might even be C tier, dude. The rise
Yeah,
of the
I
melee
would
hordes
look
are
at them
coming.
in C.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I'll
I'm
take
gonna
it.
put them the same tier that we put them last time.
I said that cheese held them up so high. Like just having models that can't die to certain teams.
Right. So it's just superior on an objective with like faith points to keep gaining them. Like, what do you do?
So, G, like when we first looked at this team looked awful, right? But we just didn't see the cheese when we first had our impressions of them. And then it was like, oh, there's cheese now. And now there's like,
You ate the cheese.
GW ate the cheese.
There's no more cheese. We're just gassy.
Yeah. For newer players, I feel like this is a very hard team to play. It's a very hard team to pilot correctly. They are cool and pretty models. But just if this is your team, Space Nuns is your team, just be aware that you might be struggling sometimes. So know that going in.
One of the things I'd like to point out is even with the cheese, they weren't taking top positions. Like even at LVO, right? I don't think we had any Novitiates in the top cut.
That was just
only Worlds we did. Our Worlds got pretty close.
Yeah, Worlds got close, but it still didn't make it. So now take away their, amazing cheese. Where do they really stand?
Yeah. We got Phobos up next. I think Phobos is pretty good. But I think they are the worst of the Marine teams. I might be wrong, but they do ignore obscuring. They have some mines. They have 12 wounds, 7-inch move. What do you guys think?
It's a 12 wounds for me. Because otherwise the toolkit's cool. The 7-inch move is awesome. The ability to be like, you don't get to activate for a number of turns. Deadly shots is nice. Doing objectives because you have recon.
I think they're going to go above average most of the time. I put them in.
B. I can live with B because they're still pretty good in melee and stuff. If you decide to go Reaver heavy, like you got the tools, you can take extra stun grenades and stuff. Right, that's the team that does it. If I remember right,
they have P1 on some
stuns.
Yeah, exactly. So like, was it?
They have P1 too, don't they, on some of their weapons? So now it's actually pretty decent into the bigger Marine teams. So they might start punching up. Are they A tier?
No. This team is exactly the same as Angels of Death, in my opinion. They lose wounds, they gain aggression. It's really the same thing where they can shoot really hard, but they're weaker. Angels of Death doesn't shoot as hard, but they're more durable. They're really just a toss-up of how you want to play. Both teams, I think, are competitively viable in the same frame.
I would agree. Now, if we put another team in B tier, we're going to have to drop a team. It might be Wreka Krew because they're kind of like halfway, they're hanging on. They're hanging on because they believe.
But I love them. I'm going to do my job not to move Wreka Krew from that position.
Okay. Farstalker ban your fault. No, I'm kidding.
Ratlings are up next. I think Ratlings are A tier for sure. For sure. They can definitely take events.
12 command points for free if you play no Ogrins, and there's some matchups that works. Like what?
Yeah, or you can take Ogrins and then just shoot anything in close combat with them. And they're really tricksy. If you're looking at Ratlings as a starting team, they're a lot of fun. and the skill ceilings, you're never going to hit it because the team is so strong. You never you'll get on ladders and you're just never going to get there. So I think they're pretty good. And shout out to Saya for painting this Ratlings model. Ruby, I think she named her. Where do you think they are, Orion?
I think it depends on where they are in the world. If they're on Volcus, maybe B. If they're in Into the Dark, I think they're S.
Yep, I agree. And they're S and Into the Dark for sure.
I think because of that, it swaps them right into A.
Yeah, this team is disgusting. They're the new Pathfinders on Into the Dark. Absolutely disgusting. We have Aquilons up next. Solid C tier for me.
Solid C tier. They were D, but now that they got the ability to, like, not only when I drop in, but also when I jump off vantages, I can my shooting thing is a good thing. The momentum, what it's called, and then the other one to last the end of turn. But good changes, but not enough to be like, but they're better than Kasrkin.
You're saying the changes. Yeah, I think they're still D tier. You say all they're like, oh, this good stuff. No, they're still D tier.
I put it in C.
I think they go up not because of the buffs they got, because of the nerfs the other teams got.
Okay.
They do have some effective piercing weapons still, and again, piercing crits. I can't speak enough for that being the top teams, one of their biggest cruxes at the moment.
Aquilons for new players are a really fun team. They come in Hivestorm, so there's a lot of them, and you can probably get them online for pretty cheap. They're kind of like the newest, hottest guard team. So if you like humans and you like specialists, you can't really go wrong with them. They have a really interesting play mechanic. So when you're playing them, know that not every team works that way. They might be hard to learn at first, but I think that they're going to be a really good team for new players compared to like Novitiates. Void Dancers, straight to S tier for me. In fact, I think
don't waste our time. Yeah,
top of S tier.
They ignore so much. They're very
like I was playing against them.
Stuff.
Yeah, I was playing against them a night ago with Night Lords, and I was doing awesome. I was on top, turns everything around, and I'm down, and I end up losing the game like out of nowhere. They could do the recovery. There's just some things they can do. Oof.
Yeah. Now they can start to fall apart once you start taking part of them, killing them, just like all elf teams. But like you said, they have 3 APL and they can just like do whatever the fuck they want and kill whatever they want. If you're looking into Void Dancers as a new player, know that the team's pretty expensive to buy. They have a lot of expensive models. They are a really fun team, and I don't see them being this strong forever. I think the nerf bat is going to come hard for them eventually. So if you're wanting to get them and play them, get them and play them now while they're super, super strong and super, super good.
Right, because their nerf was like not even that bad. 8 inches instead of infinite. Okay, not a problem.
It is a bigger nerf than people give it credit for, because the Shadow Seer can't just hang out in the back of the map smacking people for no reason for 8 wounds, because for some reason the thing always hits. I never miss a dice when they do Mirror of Minds. It's like, wow, somehow I rolled exactly your dice.
Die.
Just die. Playing Kroot, that was terrible, because they just kept sniping a Kroot for fun every turn. I was
like, cry.
Can you please fuck off? The team's very good. The ability to use the fusion pistol to charge somebody, fight them with a crit, fall back for free, and then shoot them with the Melta afterwards. Nothing really statistically lives through that fight, which is very unfortunate. They have the option to kill any model they want turn 2, with fly and all that. Into the Dark obviously makes it a little more limited, but.
Wormblade is up next. I think Wormblade, did Wormblade win any events? They placed at 2. No, they placed at 1. They placed at 1. They had a 50.6% win rate, which is, I think they're pretty good, but I feel like they're in B tier. And now that means we would have to drop a team.
Hold on. I'm going to wait. Okay. No, don't do it.
All right. What are you thinking?
Okay. All right. So I don't fully advocate for this, but I'm going to play devil's advocate to not move that fucking Wreka Krew.
Okay. He likes it.
So the team did get a few shadow buffs. The ability to have the heavy barricade moving forward. They do have some positional play that they can do for dashes, which lets them move up the board a little bit more aggressively than they could before. And that they do have piercing weapons that will be a lot more viable now because their guns kind of have relentless, shooting their targets turn 2 if they're concealed. Their heavy guns are nothing to be scoffed at, nor the Kellermorph to be scoffed at. I think they get a little bit better killing elites now, and I think they get a little bit better with their positional play than they were already.
That's fair. I think that they are better. I just don't know if they're going to win events regularly and go in A tier. I think that they're still just going to be an average or above average team.
No, don't do
Gee,
it. Don't
what do you think?
No.
Well, let me ask
Are you going to
Orion
make
this.
Are you going to make this more difficult, Giacomo? Or
I
are we
am.
gonna make this easy?
So, Orion, when you look at A tier, how many teams is Wormblade beating? If you're piloting and playing against yourself.
Well, I never lose, so that's a tough one. No. Listen, I think they do have the ability to beat any of the human teams on here, and maybe like the Corsairs, because like they do get to drop an incredible amount of crap on the board. They get to put mines down that they don't trigger.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I took mines every single time at Worlds, and no one popped a single one. Not one mine went off.
So
and I even had a mine layer.
So did you put that mine anywhere where you didn't want to step on? I don't think you did. Wormblade gets to do that because they walk over their own mines. If you put it somewhere where nobody is happy where it is, then mines are a lot more effective.
Fair.
Like I said, I think they could be in B. I think that's fine. It's not fun, but it's fine.
So who are we dropping? Who are we dropping?
This is tough.
I think Hunter Clade, just because we don't know what they're really doing.
Sorry, Connor. Sorry, they're better than Deathcore, but in my list, they're worse.
I mean, we can vote on this. I don't think it has to be a what
I was gonna pick Hunter Clade myself.
Oh, but man, Hunter Clade.
Farstalker would have been my second.
Hunter Clade is so good though.
It would be between Deathcore or Hunter Clade, is what I would say, because Deathcore is still yet to be seen if they can really swing these games. They get all those buffs in their territory.
I think that we have to put Deathcore down there. I honestly do. I think that when you go to events, you're still probably going to lose a lot of rounds, like just to be objectively honest.
Yeah, I think it's fine. Again, I have yet to be seen just how destructive their shooting can be. Like I've seen one game of it, and it was a nightmare. I won, but not nearly as good as I normally would versus them.
Okay, so we're gonna let's mix up some of these real quick. Let's get at least the front right, the front and the back, the middle, whatever, right?
Right.
The top of A tier. Let's do S tier first. So Void Dancers definitely first up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd put Legionaries in front of Inquisition personally.
Really? I don't think so. I think Legionaries are at the back of everything. Legionaries are scouts, personally. And I think
we would put scouts probably at the back.
You think so?
Yeah, just because so I don't get flamed so hard.
Yeah, because I was originally for scouts for A, so I'm fine with them bottom, like the back.
Okay, well, my magnet.
It is yet to be seen if Scout Squad is actually as oppressive as I think it's going to be.
This is Orion's hot take.
It is my hot take.
We're gonna see him at home in D tier.
Giacomo, you get a chance to do a hot take of yourself because I'm gonna do a hot take. So we get one. Okay, new rule. We get one hot take each, right? So we can take any team that we want and put them anywhere. Oh yeah. So Orion's hot take was taking Scout Squad, put it at S tier. Time.
You guys agreed with me on that one for the most part.
Yeah, it was just your charisma. Your charisma.
Said if anything, my hot take was the Wreka being in its own category.
Yeah.
That was your hot take. That was
all right. He gets his own category. Okay. G, so you get a chance to change anything here while we're doing it. So you got your shot. My guy. A tier. Who we putting at the top of A tier while Giacomo's thinking? Because I also have to think.
Scouts.
Well,
No, Giacomo. All right, so you're putting scouts at the top of A tier. Is that your hot take?
That was the only thing I was like, I don't think they're hitting S. I think they're getting into A. That's where I was like, I don't think they're hitting.
Change the rules. Am I gonna have to use my hot take to put them back?
To put them back. You can. We can nullify them.
Put them in B tier. Let the chaos flow.
Oh no.
Oh no. All right. So I guess Giacomo's putting Scout Squad at the top of A tier.
They don't deserve S. Sorry, guys. I want to buy the team too because I like the way they play now. Like I've seen it, or been reading it, and I was like, I could fuck with that now.
I'll fix these all in post, so it looks like a really pretty image. All right. So who's next? Who's next? I shouldn't have changed the dang rules. Fudge.
You gonna change it back?
So who's at the bottom of A tiers that we're looking at?
Well, I would say, is there any other team that you'd really just throw out the front of A tier? Would it be Warpcoven? It'd have to be Warpcoven, right? Because
I think it'd have to be Warpcoven,
yeah.
And in fact, I think that Warpcoven. Oh well, Giacomo used his little rule.
Well, I mean, you can use your rule right now and be like, Warpcoven's better than Scouts.
That you're putting Warpcoven. All right.
Are you gonna use your rule right now?
I'm not gonna use my rule for anything. All right. Is there anything else that you really feel strongly? What are we putting at the back of A tier? I'd probably say Blooded goes at the back.
I would maybe say Brood Brothers.
Oh, I would say Brood Brothers. That's a hard one. I could go for either. You want to coin flip it?
Are we good with this ranking ish?
Yeah, I think that's pretty spot on.
That feels pretty solid. Yeah.
All right. I'll move these around.
Corsairs are
debating if I want to use my hot take for the episode.
Up to you. You can.
Thinking about it.
You got time.
So top of B tier. This one seems to be a little bit more. I mean, I'd put Mandrakes there, but it sounds like Orion or Hierotek maybe.
Not Wormblood?
I don't think anyone's a bigger champion than Angels of Death for the B tier category.
Okay. Who's
like
second?
We saw them do pretty good at LVO. Not quite good enough, but we saw them do pretty good, right?
Yeah. I think they went 6-3 with like 2 different players. I think that we have to put Phobos right behind them. Orion said that they are essentially the same team, right?
I mean, I think it's a decent analogy for those two.
Wreka Krew is off in their own little world, figuring things out.
Yep.
Wrecking the world, wrecking the tier list.
I want to put Farstalker back here.
Okay.
That's where I want to do, just because I have massive hate for all Tau. I might say that I don't, but I do. All Tau.
Yeah, I don't even think it's a hot take. That just feels right.
For the greater good.
I think that's about where they are.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm liking the way it looks. I'm liking it. Chaos Cult, I think, is a hot take. I don't think a lot of people are going to agree with us, but that's okay. Engagement for the engagement gods, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we have C tier up next. Who's at the top of C tier? Is it Death Korps of Krieg? It very well may be.
I think it is.
Yeah, but Yaegirs might beat them, though.
Yeah, I think they're probably second fiddle there.
You think I did it?
Yeah, they have 4/4 shotguns. They're just really rough.
Again, I thought Yaegirs would be in D tier, but I mean, if we're playing nice here, they could be the Kings of C tier.
All right, fair. Kings of C tier. Starstriders, I'm down with putting at the very back. I think Starstriders are awful. Right next to
know if they're
Aquilons
worse
and these
than
guys.
the Aquilons, though.
I was thinking I think either Vespids or Aquilons. Well, I mean, at least Vespids get their
Vespids at least. So all these teams got buffs except for Novitiates, but Novitiates dropped from S tier to C tier, right?
Right, and I still think they're fighting.
Didn't get balls outside of just the nerfs. They didn't get balls, I
mean, Pathfinders and Kommandos didn't get anything.
Yeah, but they're cooler. I really dislike the art style.
Didn't you just say you hate Tau like a second ago?
Yeah,
Pathfinders are
but-
so cool.
but
It's his hot take.
but I actually buy Tau. I have Tau. I do like them. I like to paint them. I just refuse to play them because
So you just
I
hate
am
birds.
not-
You don't hate Tau.
I loved Kroot. I love Kroot.
You just said you hated them.
I actually love Vespids. I think they're pretty.
Somebody get
awesome.
this man off the podcast.
This is an episode, sir.
I think I dislike playing them. That faction the most, but I like the models and how they look. So are you guys advocating for Pathfinders to go to the back of C tier? Do you think that they're worse than Starstriders?
Yeah.
Okay.
If he says so.
Well,
I
I mean,
decaf.
I think they're playing for King of Turd Mountain. I'm not really too fussed about it.
Right, yeah, it's like, okay.
All right. Well, they are the kings of Turd Mountains.
Yep.
They got buffed specifically because all the elites got nerfed. Okay. They don't have any P1. They just do 4 or 5 damage. It's pretty good. I think it's pretty good.
I think they do it. They definitely have P1. But
Okay. The most important tier, D tier. Who's at the top of the poop pile and who's literally at the bottom of the poop pile?
I think Gellerpox are at the bottom of the poop pile.
Do Gellerpox have
I'll
access
take
to
that.
recon or no?
No.
They seek and
Seeking
destroy security. Yeah, okay. But Kasrkin's in the front, Gellerpox at the back.
They cannot play either of them, which is very bad.
Kasrkin are still bad because the better way to play them is Inquisition. That's why we put them down here in the first place.
Yeah,
right?
but if we were fighting in below the turds, where the turds go to poop, like, you know.
Yeah,
this is-
Kasrkin, I think, are better than Exaction and Breachers.
I would agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
They have recon.
Whoa, that is
Whoa.
not what I
Yeah,
wanted.
just throw those
That
away.
was- all right. Just throw them away. Okay, let's
Yeah.
delete those teams. Oh, I just deleted one. Okay, he's back.
Well.
Look at that. How cool is that? All right, so this looks to be our final list here.
Wow.
If I can. Whoa.
There we go. All right.
Okay, let's
Perfect.
make
We're
us
blocking the
smaller.
panties.
Okay, well, I don't know what that is. What is that? Let's delete that. Cool. So, that has been deleted. This is our kill team tier list done by Squad Games and Orion. If you guys disagree with us immensely, is there any other hot takes? Do we have anything?
I used mine.
I mean,
I don't
I think
think I have
theoretically Gellerpox could be higher, just because they have the 4 field no pains. No, not that high.
Should I
They're
use
reaching
my
their
hot take?
grubby little hands scraping.
Should I
the
use
seats
my
here.
hot take, Giacomo?
Do you want to?
No. No, I don't.
No, so I think overall they're pretty bad, but depends on how people pick their scouting options.
Yeah, if you don't take stun grenades, you don't take razor wire into them, you might
it's-
be into a rough time.
It depends on when you take the razor wire. That's what it comes down to. Because I can remove
Right.
the razor wire.
Oh,
But if you pick it as a scouting step, I can't.
Right, because it's like,
Oh.
I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with Kasrkin, you could just go like, all right,
That's
I'm
a
going to
good tip.
abandon
that's a good
abilities
tip
and
to
just
know.
take warriors for stun and smokes, and just like, there's your hard counter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like Scout
Yeah.
Squad just having multiple
thing.
sources of APL reductions. Brood Brothers similarly.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's exciting. We finally have a tier list, a too early
Hooray.
first impressions tier list. Hopefully everyone enjoyed. Hopefully you don't get too mad at us for pooping on your favorite team. But if they're in the bottom of poop, I mean, Orion put his own team down there in the bottom of poop
I
pile.
did.
You can tell he's upset.
You can only be
You
so
know?
mad because I also threw myself in the mud.
Hey, I was down there last time, and after this event, I might be right back down there. I might be like, yo, Orion, we're going to fight for the bottom, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think Deathcore are better. If you guys enjoy the art from this, make sure you go onto our Discord and thank the artists who have submitted their models. Yeah, I mean, I think that Giacomo took some great photos and deleted great backgrounds, and then I made little PNGs for 3 days and wanted to kill myself every second.
Thank you for your sacrifice.
You're welcome. At least I don't have to do this again, right?
Until
better
we
save
keep adding new ones.
I literally better save this right now in the middle of this. Okay, thank goodness. Fantastic. So, yeah, I think that's going to wrap it for us. Orion, is there anything that you would like to shout out?
Well, I mean, you guys know who I'm going to shout out, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
obvious. Not Alexander Popov, because there were like
Oh!
10 episodes ago where he was on and he was like, "Oh, I think it's very weird that people shout me out. That's very strange." So guess what? We're not shouting you out anymore. You're over. You're canceled.
Canceled. Alex Popov has been canceled.
I remembered.
Wow.
Shame on you, Alex. Shame on you. Okay, that's fair. G, do you have anything?
Yeah, if you're watching this on YouTube, feel free to check out the rest of the stuff we do. We got battle reports, we got the Hobby Highlander, and like we said earlier, you can join the Discord. The link is down there somewhere, and leave a comment. Tell us what you thought. Our tier list. Tell us what is your hot take. Where would you put some? Or if you're like, you know what, these guys got it spot on. Everyone else is wrong. Let us know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Think
Tell
you
us
did right.
how wrong. Tell us how wrong Cyrac and Glass Half Dead and all those other YouTubers are, because we're the best uninformed podcast, right? I think that's exactly where we rank. But I want to shout out Saya's, my wife's YouTube channel, Tabletop Mayhem. She just did an interview with Jimmy Kelly. Make sure you guys go check out that. Subscribe, leave some comments for this video. Also subscribe, leave comments. And yeah, if you disliked us, let us know. If you think we're ding dongs, let us know. If you think we're the coolest people, what should we say? We got to come up. This is the end of the podcast. We have to come up with a saying that people can say, and then we know they stayed, because it's cooler than a double goodbye, So we got to think of something.
Like, we just want.
Shout out to Alex Popov.
No.
If you enjoyed the episode, write shout out to Alex Popov in the comments.
Okay.
Or
if you hated the episode, it's a hashtag no shout out to Popov.
Yeah. So you choose, you decide. You choose who's best. All right, sorry. Until next time, everyone. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Cheers.
Yep.